The corpse parade is not a legend or folklore. It is a phenomenon known only to a select few. All knowledge of it resides within the journal of Ellen Shepard, who, driven by a mix of love and desperation, chronicles the haunting impact of a collection of videotapes that plunged her partner Ethan into obsession, forever altering the course of her life. Ellen and Ethan had lived together for nearly 3 years, when his father died in 2013. Though Ethan and his father had never been particularly close, Ellen could see how much the death affected her boyfriend. While sorting through his father's belongings, Ethan found a collection of videotapes. Ellen writes how Ethan reminisced over memories of his father with his camera. He had been so eager to capture every family moment. They took the tapes back to their home. It became a nightly tradition to skim through 1 or 2 before bed. Ellen teased Ethan whenever the awkwardness of his youth was captured on film. At the bottom of the box lay 3 tapes, each marked Corpse Parade, their labels bearing dates that indicated they had been filmed 10 years apart. When Ellen inquired about them, Ethan only shrugged. Curiosity piqued, they decided to watch them. The first tape, from 1983, started with a distorted squeal and rows of tracking lines. The image trembled, flickering in and out as the camera adjusted to dusk's creeping shadows, drawing them closer to the screen. At first nothing was clear, only the vague shapes of trees swaying in a barely perceptible wind. Then, in the distance, something solid, man-made, a bridge. They recognized the bridge from the old road that led to the cemetery. Ethan's father, unseen behind the camera, spoke with barely restrained excitement, his voice carrying a manic anticipation. A breeze over the microphone garbled his words, but he was muttering something about proof, and no one ever believing him. As he spoke, the camera scanned the old road, settling periodically on the space before the bridge. There was something odd about the space there. The air looked thin, like heat rippling off asphalt on a summer day. Ethan's father stopped speaking mid-sentence, suddenly silent. Then, without warning, figures stepped into existence. Not from the distance, not emerging from some hidden place, but simply there, fading in where before there had been nothing. A claw-footed bathtub emerged from the space, borne by 6 solemn figures, carrying the tub like pallbearers. Red liquid sloshed over its rim, the motion unsettlingly smooth, as if the liquid inside had weight beyond water. The camera zoomed in on a pale hand that dangled lifelessly over the edge. A ring adorned with emeralds in the shape of a crescent glinted in the dim light. Ethan's father, behind the camera, exhaled sharply, the awe clear in his voice, though his mutterings were lost to the wind. The tub rocked gently as it passed, the emerald ring catching the light. "God, that's awful," she muttered. "Why would your dad even film this?" Ethan didn't respond. He was still watching the screen, his expression unreadable. Behind the pallbearers, a funerary procession emerged, faces covered or blurred. They carried an assortment of household items, towels, cutlery, blankets. Near the front, an elderly woman clutched a wedding dress, its beauty tugged at a longing deep within Ellen. Each mourner clutched their cherished item tightly, embodying the essence of a life that was lost, or perhaps the remnants of a hope that could not survive. Ellen urged Ethan to turn it off, her voice soft yet insistent, breaking the spell of the flickering screen. Ethan's finger hovered over the remote, poised to obey, when his father's shocked whisper broke through the speakers. "Lillian?" A new procession had started. Among them was an elderly woman, familiar in her grief. Ellen's attention had been on the screen, but something about Ethan's sudden stillness pulled her focus. "What is it?" she asked carefully. I think that is my Aunt Lillian," Ethan stammered. "Why would she help your father make something like this?" Ethan shook his head. "I don't think she would. She couldn't have. This says it was filmed in '83. Aunt Lillian died when I was 3 or 4, a couple of years before this. I only remember her because she always gave me sweets. Look, I think that's supposed to be Uncle Henry. Ahead of Ethan's aunt, her husband was carried on a litter, his bulk draped in white sheets that once might have been clean. His pallbearers, dressed in hospital gowns, strained under his weight, their hands trembling as they shifted their grip. His feet, wrapped in pristine bandages, darkened with each step, the stains spreading like slow-moving ink. Trailing in his wake, the mourners advanced, each clutching a sweet, a confection, or an oily entree. They couldn't stop watching after that. The parade appeared endless, with individuals from various eras emerging into being and vanishing down the path, each group of carriers burdened with a haunting mirror image of their own demise. The tape ended abruptly with a squeal of static and a heavy clunk from the VCR, making them both jump. Ethan reached for the second tape, but Ellen rested a gentle hand on his, her touch a quiet plea. "Let's leave the rest for another night," she whispered. With a reluctant sigh, Ethan agreed. Ellen's dreams were haunted with visions of black-clad mourners following macabre depictions of their deceased. She rolled in bed and saw that Ethan's side was cold and empty. Despite her restlessness, she had not realized Ethan had left. On her way to check on him, she stopped by the medicine cabinet, taking a sedative in hopes it would help her sleep, overcoming the images of dark processions circling her mind. In the sitting room, she found Ethan kneeling in front of the screen, his eyes locked onto the silent march of dark figures down the old road. She approached him carefully, watching his face, the flickering light of the television casting hollowed shadows across his features. He spoke without turning towards her. His voice was flat, distant. "It's everyone," he said. When she didn't respond, he continued. "I've seen so many faces in these videos, Ellen. My first grade teacher. She died alone in her apartment. In the video, her cats are in the casket." He trails off and shakes his head. "My boss. He's alive, you know, but he's in the video. He's lying on the roof of his burning Porsche, drawn by black horses as if it were some sort of funerary pyre. We've always said he drives too fast." Ethan pauses before turning to Ellen. His eyes are haunted. "This isn't just the dead, Ellen. It's all of us." There was a moment of stillness before Ethan reached for the VCR, ejecting the tape and inserting another labeled 1993. Static hissed before the image stabilized on a procession that wasn't on the first tape. "This is my grandfather," Ethan explained, as a hospital gurney appeared on the screen. It was being carried by pallbearers dressed in expensive suits. They laughed, their coat and pant pockets bulging with money, passing out cigarettes to mourners as they passed by. On the gurney, the visage of an old man lay in a hospital gown. His skin yellowed, his jaw hung slack, and a stack of smoke rose from his mouth. The camera shook, and though the volume was turned down, Ellen could hear Ethan's father sobbing behind the camera. "Look," Ethan exclaimed as he pointed to one of the mourners. Ellen gasped. It was Ethan's father, or a shadow of him, walking behind the procession, regret and sorrow heavy on his face. Ellen furrowed her brows, confused. The sedative had started its sluggish siege of her brain. "What does this mean?" she asked. "It means my father is there," he murmured. "He's still there." He turned to her, his eyes wide, alight with something desperate, something feverish. "I can see him again." He jabbed a finger at the bottom of the screen. "Look at the date," he whispered. His voice cracked. "The tapes are dated every 10 years. That means it's happening. It's happening right now. Tonight." Ellen's sluggish mind struggled to grasp the meaning of Ethan's words. She sensed that something was wrong. Something didn't make sense. But he seemed so certain, so excited. She vaguely remembered him grabbing his keys, excited at the prospect of seeing his father again. Before she could process his words, he had gone. She sat on the couch, her thoughts muddled. Belatedly, she realized she had been staring at the television as the processions marched across the screen. A new procession emerged and her stomach lurched. It was Ethan. EMTs were carrying a rotten wooden beam over their shoulders. Ethan laid sprawled over it on his back, a splintered board jutting through his torso. She scrambled for the phone, her fingers fumbling. Ethan wasn't answering. She dialed emergency services instead. She struggled to find the right words. All she could choke out was a desperate plea. By the time they knocked on her door, the sun was rising. They didn't need to say anything. She already knew. Ethan had tried to cross the bridge on the old road. He had ignored the signs, ignored the warnings. The bridge had collapsed. He was gone. The remainder of Ellen's journal document the empty months that followed after Ethan's death. Her world, once vibrant and brimming with shared dreams, now felt like a hollowed husk, lifeless and cold. She wandered through the quiet walls of their home, her hands lingering on the things that were once theirs. She stumbled upon a small velvet box nestled among his belongings, as if hidden. With stinging eyes, she opened the box to reveal a ring that would have once brought joy, but now only inevitability. The ring was unique in its style, adorned with gemstones cut into crescents, her birthstone, emeralds. Thank you for visiting Archive 19. Your curiosity is appreciated. If you found this story intriguing, consider liking the video to help others uncover it as well. For more stories from obscure sources, subscribe to be notified when the next file is unearthed. New discoveries are released weekly.